the sports news you need. Live.
Well, hello and a very good evening to you. It's not Graham this week, the number one presenter. He is back to the number two presenter. So you've got me, myself, Michael, here until 7, and it's brilliant to be back on the show. And Graham, I'm not going to take another week off, right? Because everything happens when I'm off. You've got managers moving football clubs. You've got this first domestic trophy away to Celtic. Everything happens, by the way, when they go off. So I'm here now till the end of time. Anyway, on that cheery note, it's Friday. Yes, welcome to the weekend. So you're listening to The Locker Room on Indie Live Radio, and you're watching us on Indie Penguins Live. I'm sorry about that. But I was born this way, as Lady Gaga said. Wow, Grim, it's only the beginning of the show and I'm off to, you know what I mean? As if I've never been away. How are you, Grim? Well done for last week, mate.
I think my throat's still sore after that show last week. And then I also got accused of being a Rangers fan, which was quite interesting.
I saw that comment. Somebody said because you were wearing a blue hoodie.
Yeah, even clearly hasn't watched the show before, because anyone that watches this knows that I'm a Hearts fan. But there you go. But I'm delighted to be now not back in the hot seat, and I can kind of take a wee chill and relax and let you do your stuff.
See, you've got to watch what you're wearing on the show, Grim, because, you know, our viewers are very, you'll be a St. Mirren fan tonight because you're wearing, is it black?
You know, I thought about wearing nothing, but I thought maybe I shouldn't show it. Maybe I shouldn't show that to the camera. That's probably a bad idea.
Exactly. No, don't do that. No. That's a whole entirely different show. Graham, after midnight. I'll try and come up with a name for that kind of show, right? And but no comments, please. So you can comment on the usual ways. You can comment on the new show for Graham. No, I'm only kidding. On YouTube or Facebook Live, and also you can tweet us at the Locker Room Indie. On Twitter as well. We're here until 7 o'clock. It's amazing, Graham. I went away for a week because I was working, different things like that. And I came back, and Jim Goodwin is now the new manager of Dundee United. And obviously, Celtics won the first domestic cup of the season. And yeah, everything happens when I go away. So maybe I should go away more often.
No, don't.
You're the first person that said that to me. I won't go away long as you come to the show. We close on, but nothing on.
I'll try my best.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's been I was going to say it's been a busy week, but we were just talking about that before we came on there. It's been quite a quiet week, actually. And I would say if you don't like your football, well, you may as well turn off now because we haven't got a lot of other sports news to talk about apart from football, and more football. And so without me going off on one, we are here until 7 o'clock, and we're going to preview the Premiership action. Before we get to that, Graham, the football on tonight in the Championship, Hamilton against Arbroath, 7:45 kickoff.
Yeah, a bit of a relegation battle that. They're both in the bottom of the league. And obviously, I think Hamilton have picked up a little bit. Again, like I said a few weeks ago, when they played against Hearts in the Cup, I thought they showed a lot, you know, second half especially. So maybe Hamilton might be in a false position. And again, I really want Arbroath to stay up because I'm a massive, massive fan of Dick Campbell. I'm going to be honest, I'm not expecting a classic. But then when I say that, it might end up being a decent game. But I think it'll be a very tight game. I'll just try to look at the league table, actually, see how much is in it. I don't think there's much in it, actually. Let me see. I had the league table up 2 seconds ago and I've lost it.
I mean, I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, Graham, like, it's quite hard to think because last season we've all seen, oh yeah, a Broth will come up, and now they're at the other end of the table. But it's a fun little game at times.
Yeah, I've just actually got the league table up here. So Hamilton, Arbroath are bottom on 23 points. Hamilton are second bottom on 24 points. So there's not much in it. And then you've got Cove Rangers third bottom on 26 points. So, I mean, tonight's a massive game. You've got to imagine that if Hamilton win tonight, they're going to pull away. But it's a big, big game. I mean, it's a big game for both teams. And I think at the moment, Hamilton, I think the fact that at home might help on that pitch as well. Speak about plastic pitches a lot, but that's actually one of the better ones, the Hamilton one. So it's a huge, huge game. And it does feel a bit bizarre that you're talking about like Arbroath last season were going for the league title, trying to come up to the Premiership, and now they could be going to League One. It's funny how football works at times, but Dick Campbell's been there for so long. He's such a really good manager, and I hope they can stay up. But as I say, I don't think tonight's going to be a classic game. I hope it is, but I don't think it'll be a classic goal. One goal in it might be maybe 1-0 either way.
Yeah, just looking at Arbroath's record in the last few games, they've only won one game in the last 5 games.
Yeah, they've conceded 40 goals. Hamilton's conceded 45. And again, you look at the goals scored. Hamilton scored 25 and Arbroath have only scored 24. So they're not massively high-scoring teams. Now, I know that Hamilton have got a Hearts player in there, Connor Smith, who's on loan there. He's a very, very good player. He's one that I would have wanted Hearts to keep hold of. He's creative. He's got a really good eye for goal, so he could be a big player tonight if he starts. But yeah, I mean, there's not much between the two teams, and it shows with those stats I've just read out. It probably won't be a high-scoring game. That's with it. Maybe one goal will be in it. But I just think at home, Hamilton might have more than enough to win this. Not very convincingly, but as I say now, I've said that it'll end up being a brilliant game. I hope it is because it is on TV. So yeah, I don't have much in it tonight.
And I mean, we saw Hamilton a few weeks ago against Hearts, and Hearts played well for the majority of the game, Graham. But I mean, Hamilton had a wee spell. What was it in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, second half, you can clearly see that John Rankin had basically told the team to play higher up and press Hearts a bit higher, and they did that. And I thought second half they were much, much better. So there is something about that Hamilton team. They've got something about them. And I just think with that home, being at home might help them. But again, I'm looking at the top end of the league table, and Queen's Park on 47, Dundee on 43, Ayr on 40, Morton on 40, Partick on 40. And I think I put in the group chat a couple of days ago, Partick Thistle beat Dundee with only 9% possession, which is mental. Again, there's not much in it. And again, I don't know who it was, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it was, but I saw something in the Twitter a couple of days ago saying that if Queen's Park come up, it would be an absolute disaster. I completely disagree with that. I think if Queen's Park come up, they will more than hold their own. Whether they'll get... I'm not saying they won't go straight back down, but I think Queen's Park have got more than enough to stay up in that league. And again, I don't think there's much between Queen's Park and the teams at the bottom of the Premier League. I've got a bit of a cough. There's not much between the team at the bottom and the teams in the top of the Championship. So I generally think if Queen's Park come up, they will more than hold their own.
Before we bring in Dave there, I know I've got you cough, Graham, so we're going to take it to VAR and see if that was a King cough or that was a genuine cough. So if you give me a few minutes, I'll confer to no one in the room.
It's like the Millionaire program when that guy coughed and won the £1 million, but I'm not anything like that though.
No, did you mean it? No. That was a kaggle cough, Graham. You only done it for the people at home. Now there's one man that doesn't cough because he's very professional on the show. It's Mr. Graham. Oh no, Dave Smith. How are you, Dave?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Michael. Graham, can I just clarify something you said there? I think BBC, what they said about possession and all that was inaccurate. I read something. I'll just go and get it for you. I think it was 65 to 35 for Partick Thistle, or it was the other way around. It was something along those lines. So what the BBC said was inaccurate. But I agree with what you're saying about the Championship. I mean, Queen's Park are running away with it, and I've watched Queen's Park a couple of times this season, and they've been the best side I've seen in the championship. And I've probably watched pretty much every team in the championship this year. So yeah, no surprise there. Big game obviously tonight, and then a massive game tomorrow between Cove and Dundee as well, which can't be underestimated because obviously depending on what happens tonight, Cove could potentially have an incentive.
Yeah, no, Dave, we were just talking about the Hamilton Arbroath game, and I was just saying to Graham that it's very hard to believe that I think you were on the camp as well about what's in Arbroath last season, and you were hoping that Arbroath would come up. But obviously, it's totally different this season because they're at the very bottom of the table.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Arbroath have just been a bit. I hate to say the word underwhelming, Michael, but they've just not had the cohesion that everybody resembled them with last season. I mean, they were fairly tangible what they did last year. They had a real focal point in the forward areas with either Jack Hamilton or Joel Newbley. But this season, they've just not had that. They've just not had that prowess and potency in the final third. They're starting to get a little bit now. El Maris came in and done really, really well, but he's had to sit on the bench a little bit lately just because the forward players have been doing so well. Sean Darkwas came in, done very, very well, and Arbroath are getting a bit more organisation defensively. I think March will give us a huge indication of where Arbroath's going to be. Now, we've been saying about Arbroath every month since the start of the season, but I think March has got even more importance to it because Hamilton tonight is massive. No game next weekend because Carl's in cup duty. They obviously play Morton on Friday night. And they've also got Ayr on the Friday night, and they've got, I might be holding the wrong, I think Partick away as well. So, yeah, a lot of testing games there. And tonight will tell us a lot about both teams because if Hamilton win, there's also a gap. Massive. If Arbroath win, Arbroath can go into 8th tonight. So, yeah, massive.
And I mean, we were. I was talking about Hamilton as well, Dave, before you come on. And like a few weeks ago, we saw them against Hearts, and you could say that Hearts dominated the game in the first half, but Hamilton had a wee kind of 20-minute spell in the second half.
They've been getting some good results, Hamilton. John Rankin, he got off to a fairly slow start. Graham will know John Rankin more than anybody else. He got off to a fairly slow start, but being honest, I know there was a lot of Hamilton fans having a little bit of a go at John Rankin, but see from a personal perspective, I didn't think there was a lot wrong with Hamilton. Not that they were playing, not that they were playing bad. They weren't playing bad, but they just needed a little bit of belief about them, and that was something that was missing from the start of the season. But it's funny how a few signings, a little wee system change of formation can work wonders because they've had some fairly good results ever since, and in a very strong position because they looked down and out in October, but now let's go and kick on.
And now, Graham, so I mean, we'll speak about the other championship games in a minute as well, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. But again, I keep saying that it's really hard to believe that these two teams are kind of like at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, well, at the start of the season, I did say there was quite a few teams I thought could win this championship, and they were both in there. I was really hoping that Arbroath could maintain what they did last season, but it was always going to be difficult. But I think Hamilton have been really, really poor, unfortunately. But again, I think there has been signs of something in them. As I said earlier on, when they played Hearts second half, I thought John Rankin got his tactics in that second half spot on. They really caused Hearts problems in that game. Maybe didn't create a lot, but I thought they looked a lot better and more competitive. I have been really surprised at Hamilton this season, but I do think that tonight, being at home, it's a game they're looking to get 3 points from it. It will be tough. We know what Arbroath can do. We know what they're capable of, but I think it will be tough. But I just don't think there'll be a lot. I just think there'll be a lot in this game, but I think Hamilton have been a major disappointment, as probably, unfortunately, have Arbroath, because I really expected big things from them. But as I said, it was always going to be tough to replicate what we did last season because that was such a massive achievement, them almost coming up. And I feel a bit sorry for Dick Campbell that he couldn't quite get there. But I really hope they don't go down another division because that would be a shame if they did.
Okay, let's run through the rest of the games then tomorrow. Ayr United against Inverness, Cove Rangers are against Dundee, as Dave mentioned earlier on. Packet Thistle is at home to Raith Rovers, and Queen's Park against Greenock Morton in that game. Dave, you see more, well, I don't know about this season, but you used to see more of the championship than us. And obviously, you were talking about Cove Rangers. Was that a kind of mistake for Cove to appoint Paul Hartley back as manager?
I don't think so. I mean, ultimately, Cove had to go make a change of some sort after Jim McIntyre, because let's be honest, a lot of people, there was let's be honest, when Jim McIntyre left Cove, there was a bit of division whether he should stay or whether he should ultimately go. Now, when you get beat 6-1 by Cali, you know your time's up a little bit, because Cali and Cove, there's not much to do with separate sides, in all fairness. So when you get beat 6-1 by Cali, you know your time's up a little bit. I mean, McIntyre has some superb wins, and I think you've got to acknowledge him for that, but the way in which they were conceding goals, the way in which things were going to falter, just wasn't a good look. What I would say about Paul Hartley is I think he had to go and rebuild early doors. He went and told their own TV station early doors that he had to go and get 5 or 6 new players in, and that was despite having a familiar team that they were used to last season when Paul Hartley won all those trophies with the club. But I just think Clover were missing a bit of spark this season. But he's been backed I don't think Paul Hartley can have a lot of excuses now, because he's been backed especially in the loan market. Jackson Longridge from Livingston's a superb signing on loan from Livingston. Michael O'Halloran didn't really get much of an opportunity at St Johnstone, but Michael O'Halloran technically is a Premiership striker on his day. So that's 2 excellent signs as far as Cove are concerned. I think proof will be in the pudding starting tomorrow, because the one thing that's going against Cove is quite simply their defensive work. And as Paul Hartley told Richard Gordon on the TV, Cove TV after the game, that you can't coach some of these things, and this is where I think I mean, we don't know who was in for the job. If there was higher caliber of candidates in for the job, we can sit here and say this person or that person should have got the job. But from the outside looking in, it looked as though Paul Hartley was the first outstanding choice for that job. And I mean, they've had a wee bit of an improvement, but this was always going to be a tall aspect of. I'd have just been, I get what you're saying though, I'd have been interested to see how they got on, or how they were going to get on, had Jim McIntyre still been at the club.
Can I just quickly ask Dave, what do you reckon of the appointment of Partick Thistle as Chris Doolan has been appointed the permanent manager? What do you make of that? Is that a good appointment?
Fantastic appointment for Partick Thistle, because I mean, Chris Doolan's got some fairly good results. Now, Ian McCall left a very good foundation at the Jags, but you could sense it yourselves when Partick weren't winning games. When I'll still reiterate, I'm still of the opinion that Partick Thistle used the Rangers Cup time money in order to try and get Ian McCall out the door, because they were very serious about Premiership ambitions. Partick are a lower end Premiership, top end Championship team on paper, and based on the whole surroundings regarding that club, they're not a stick on Championship side. So Chris Doolan's came in and made the job his. He's obviously got some good results, and the thing for Partick Thistle is he's got to go and kick on from that now. I mean, it was a superb win at Dundee on Tuesday, which ultimately could help their fellow Glasgow rivals in winning the league. So could be important.
Yeah, as Graham said, Chris Gooden has been appointed as Partick Thistle following a 3-match spell as interim manager, and as Dave said, that they had a brilliant result on Tuesday night, when they defeated Dundee 3-1, and now they are lying in third place with Ayr United, and they host Raith Rovers tomorrow. Graham, this could be quite a decent match actually, because I saw Raith Rovers, what was it, a few weeks ago? What was it, against Morton? they won the Terry one Friday night game?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think it's a good appointment for Partick as well. I think Chris Doolan, he was a brilliant goal scorer in his day, and I think he will probably. You tend to find that attacking players kind of try and get that philosophy into their management as well. They want to try and attack, which I think is great as a supporter. So yeah, I think that'll be a really good game tomorrow. Again, for me, I thought Wraith Rovers might have been up there as well, challenging. They've had a bit of a kind of disappointing season, maybe. And the Cups have been absolutely fantastic, as we know. I think Ian Murray's done a really decent job there since he came in. But again, I think Wraith are a decent side. Again, against Motherwell, although Motherwell were awful, against Motherwell, I thought Wraith were absolutely fantastic and deserved that win comfortably. And the signing for me of Ismael Gonçalves is a very good signing. He's a very good striker for me. So I think Wraith Rovers have got a very good squad there now. It's going to be a difficult game, I think. But for me, I think if Partick can maintain what they've done so far with Doolan in charge, there's no reason they can't be challenging for that, automatic promotion place. But again, I keep on saying this, I genuinely don't think there's much between the top of the Championship and the bottom of the Premiership. And again, whoever goes down from the Premiership, and you've got to imagine it's Dundee United, even with Goodwin in charge, they will find it very hard to come back up because that Championship is such a competitive league.
Dave, it was a breath of fresh air when Packet first went to Ibrox and had a go at Rangers. And we all know what happened at the end of the game, but I'm not going to get into that because me and Graham spoke about that about for 5 hours on the show that week. But it just shows you that teams can go to Ibrox and go to Parkhead and have a go. And Packet Thistle weren't scared to have a go on that night.
It's something that doesn't happen either. It's something that doesn't happen often either. And that's a very frustrating thing for genuine Scottish football followers because we all like to see sides go to Ibrox and Parkhead and go to the bigger venues and have a right good go. I mean, I'm going to use Livingston as a genuine example of this, right? Livingston don't get the credit they deserve among certain people. But the one thing that sounds Livingston, the fact they play some good football and obviously get some big results, is to go to places such as Ibrox and Parkhead and have a right go at these teams. So I think it's something that needs to be acknowledged. It's something that needs to be praised and applauded. And I'm a big advocate that whoever does it deserves all the accolades the party could possibly get. So yeah, I think in terms of Partick Thistle, they've got a really, really good team. Harry Milne at left back's been a really, really good player. I remember him from Cove last year. He's a really, really good left back. He's been playing the Premiership, no problem. Brian Graham's still formidable in the forward areas. Now, from Tuesday, obviously, you remember the Hearts Dundee gate, Graham.
Oh yeah,
Partick Thistle obviously had a huge part to play in that. And yeah, I know Brian Graham was saying back at the start of the season that he had to take a pay cut because of Dundee's misdemeanors. So yeah, he was a very delighted man, should I say, Brian Graham, when he scored on Tuesday. That's the type of players you need. You need players with a bit of character. Now, I've seen something on Twitter that Partick Thistle should have had a player sent off, but that just shows you both sides of the game. They're a side that can play on the front foot, but also a side that can dig in when it matters as well. And that can be important for Partick.
Yeah, and before we move on, Graham, Dave makes a brilliant point about like Livingston as well, because I mean, and we did speak about this on the show the last time when I was on with you, Graham, about Livingston. They were 15 minutes away from beating Rangers at Ibrox, was it early on in the season, and Rangers score, what was it, with 10 minutes to go or something, and they got a point out of that game.
And I think, if I remember rightly, Livingston and a man sent off in that game as well, maybe late on, I think. So they were holding on for a point. But again, Dave's right, and it's something that I've said numerous times before. And I say this about my own team as well. For anyone that watches, particularly the guy that thinks I'm a Rangers fan, I say this about Hearts as well. It does frustrate me at times when my team goes to Celtic Park at Ibrox and sits back and defends. What's the point? Now, I know Celtic and Rangers have got better teams. I know that. But it's the living against the living. And I've said this as well. So I usually now I've started doing like my Twitter space about Hearts. And I've said this in my Twitter space that for me, it's a mentality thing. I think too many teams go through to Glasgow and think they've lost the game before they get on the pitch, and it's something that needs to change.
Yeah,
you have to win your individual battles. Sea of Hearts, look, we play Celtic on Wednesday at Parkhead. I've already written that game off because I know we're going to get beat. But see if we go through there to Parkhead, we have a goal, we attack, but we get beat because they're just better. I'd accept that. But what I don't like is when you go there, you sit back, just defend to get beat anyway. There's no point in that. I would rather have a goal and try and get someone out of the game, but it doesn't happen enough.
But see, when they have a goal, Graham, it makes it a better game. If the game was on the TV or whatever.
It does. And I know that folk will say, oh, it's a results business. You want to see your team win. Yes, you do. But if you're going to get beat, there's a way to do it. And sitting back and defending and getting beat anyway is pointless. I've seen numerous times. I maybe not watch the game, but I'll see the stats coming through. Like, say, from Celtic Park, for example. Celtic had like 60 or 70% possession. Hearts have had no shots on target, no corners, nothing. And that infuriates me. What's the point? You're paying your money to travel through there. I know I've got a couple of mates that are going through to Glasgow on Wednesday to watch the game. And I really hope they get a performance. If we get beat, I can accept that if we play well and we have a goal. But what I can't accept is when we sit back and get beat anyway, it's pointless.
Before we move on, Dave, I just wanted to speak about I just wanted to speak about the kind of third biggest team in Glasgow at the moment. So the Queen's Park fans. Queen's Park, they are playing Greenock Morton tomorrow. That actually be a good game as well because Dougie Embry has got Morton playing well.
Absolutely. I mean, Morton went on a bad run in terms of results. They went 3 months without a win, or 3 months without a win in the league, should I say, because they beat Queen in the Scottish Cup. And there was a lot of worry for Morton, but there wasn't any outcry from Morton fans about Dougie Embry get sacked or anything. And the board weren't saying Dougie's under pressure. So that just tells you how Dougie Embry's been a revelation at Capital, how he's been well respected by the Morton supporters and the Morton directors. And Morton are a very good side. And of course, in this league, you're going to lack inconsistency, but Morton are a good side in terms of they get the ball in the front foot, they get ball in the wide areas, they get good balls at the box, and they're very productive and effective in what they do. So, but it's going to be a tough test tomorrow against Queen's Park, a Queen's Park side that will be key to keep winning games, because if they can keep winning games, it puts much more pressure on Dundee, because a lot of people thought Dundee had the league won after beating Queen's Park, but that just tells you what happens with results, what can happen elsewhere. So it's going to be an interesting title race, and I'm intrigued to see how Morton get on, because I want them to replicate their start of the season form, because if they can do that, they'll be. I don't think they'll be automatic promotion challengers, but they'll definitely be in the periphery of the playoffs.
Dave,
okay.
Sorry, Matt. I was just going to ask Dave. I don't know if you heard me mention it earlier on, but do you think that Queen's Park, if they come up, and I hope they do, because I've been saying this for ages, do you think they could hold their own? And if they do come up, do you think there's enough investment there that they can actually sign a decent standard of player?
Yeah, first and foremost, I don't think this has got a great model about it. I can understand if folks say that and all that, but I just don't think it's got a great model about it, because if you look at the players they've brought in, it's not exactly it's the players have came in for big fees, all that kind of stuff, but nowhere near Gretna level. And this is where there'll be a massive difference. But I think Queen's Park could hold their own, because you look at the bottom four sides of the Premiership, just to give you an example, Graham. Dundee United, erratic, disarray. Ross County, erratic. Kilmarnock, poor away from home. Motherwell was still got to find out what's going like under Kettlewell. And so far, so good. But apart from that, the disarray and erratic. So I think they could hold their own, but it would be about getting a good blend in terms of the players inherited.
Okay, let's move on now to speak about the games tomorrow. And Dundee United and Aberdeen. It's always a big game, but it's a big game for maybe the wrong reasons. And I think I was thinking about this game last night, guys, right? And I was thinking about calling it the Jim Goodwin Derby I don't know how that will go down at your neck of the woods, Dave. But before we get on to speak about, well, let's get fire in there to Dundee United. You put up the press conference in the group chat, Dave. I watched it today. Obviously, he'd done it yesterday. Jim Goodwin, 1 bad week, cost me the job at Aberdeen. Now, before we get into speaking about this game, Dave, and from a journalist point of view, when he was speaking about his experience at Aberdeen, when he was sitting in a Dundee United tracksuit, you were like, yes, this is like Christmas Day. But however, should you really be talking about Aberdeen when you're with your new employers?
The first thing I said when I seen that press conference, or I seen a little wee snippet from BBC Sports Scotland, another broadcaster, of course, the first thing I said to him, mate, was, does Jim Goodwin not remember the last time Aberdeen went to Tannadice?
We got beat 4-0.
Correct. Right? Aberdeen fans were hostile after that game. They were wanting them out. Now, I'm obviously in the media, so I can't exactly comment on these things publicly. But I knew from that point onwards that he was under pressure. And I think the fact he went on a decent run afterwards kind of saved his grace a little bit. Because, let's be honest, Aberdeen played Partick Thistle in the Viaplay Cup round about that period. And I said to people, if Aberdeen don't win that, the knife's will be out for Jim Goodwin. Luckily, he won that game in question against Partick, but had he not, he's been under more pressure. So he's obviously trying to deflect away from what he actually summoned himself up against at Pittodrie. And let's be honest, that week was a disaster as far as Jim Goodwin is concerned. But then afterwards wasn't exactly great either. But speaking about it from an Aberdeen fan's point of view, I would just say it was that week. Dundee United was a black mark against them. Rangers at Ibrox probably thought it was a black mark against them. I'd say even the Ryan Porteous comments at Easter Road was a black mark against them. So that's 3 I've mentioned there.
Graham, if I was a Dundee United fan, but I'm not, watching that press conference, would you be a bit annoyed? Because if you watch that press conference, it was 3 or 4 minutes he spoke about Aberdeen, and the rest of it was about his new employers, Dundee United. Now, bearing in mind he's sitting there with a Dundee United tracksuit on, the advertising boards behind him, and he was speaking about Aberdeen. Now, if I was an Aberdeen fan or a Dundee United fan, I would be so annoyed because, like Aberdeen fans wouldn't want to hear about that. Jim Goodwin's moved on, Aberdeen's moved on. Why go back and speak about that bad experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's already United fans that aren't overly convinced. I mean, let's be honest. I think it's I said it before we came on the show tonight. I honestly love this inch. I mean, in what other job can you get sacked because you were really poor at it and then get employed in the same league and your first game is against a team that sacked you? You've got to love it. But I just think, let's be honest, from what I can see, he wasn't even the first choice. They wanted Craig Levein, but Levein turned them down, and then they've gone to Jim Goodwin. Now, if he gets United out of this, then fair enough. But the question I would ask is, what is he going to do differently at Aberdeen, the team he got sacked at, that he couldn't? What's he going to do differently at United he couldn't do at Aberdeen? Because for me, on paper, that Aberdeen squad is far better than United squad, and yet he couldn't get a tune out of them. And I think what Dave mentioned earlier on, he's absolutely right in all those bullet points he made. I think he even goes deeper than that. I think when they came back after the break, they played Celtic at Pittodrie, and they were awful. They were defensive. They had 19% possession, I think. And after that, a lot of Aberdeen fans were raging at that, and I can understand that. But then they play well against Rangers in the Viaplay Cup semi-final. They were maybe a little bit unfortunate to lose that game. I think Jim Goodwin at United is absolute box office. And tomorrow, you're right, this game is going to be huge anyway, especially for United. but it's now even bigger because Goodwin's there. And again, before we came on the show, I've got Aberdeen fans that I follow, and a few of them have already said Aberdeen will lose this game now because Jim Goodwin's there. You know what's going to happen. But I think, in your press conference, you've got to handle the media a certain way. And Jim Goodwin maybe didn't come across very well, but I just think it's mental that after all that, a few weeks out, he's back in the game, and his first game is against the team that sacked him. And I just wonder, and maybe this is harsh, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Is Jim Goodwin as good a manager as folk think he is? I'm not convinced.
He did a good enough job at St Mirren, but let's be honest, St Mirren is nowhere near the proximities involved in managing a club like Dundee United and Aberdeen. Aberdeen, you're expected to reach European football every season. Dundee United, you're expected to be at least in the top 6, if not fighting for European football. St Mirren, until probably Jim came in, because let's be honest, they were nowhere near it at that time. St Mirren, until Jim came in, it was about making sure you were first and probably 10th every season. So there's a massive difference here. And who was it? I've completely forgotten who was telling me about this now, but somebody was telling me that basically Jim Goodwin looked at this and says, he said 3 or 4 fantastic results and somehow got the job. And that's exactly how it was described. 3 or 4 fantastic results, and Dave Clark went, okay, here you go. Pay rise, a bigger budget than St Mirren, and all the resources you can get.
Dave, another interesting thing that jumped out at me at the press conference was he says he did not know about this job until 48 hours until they appointed him. There was a few other clubs in for him. I'm guessing Motherwell might have been one. I'm just putting out there, maybe not. Also, he says, but I had another opportunity to get back into the game with another club. But with this group of players, I believe we can turn it around, and that's why I'm here. It's up to me. There is a job to be done here, and that starts tomorrow against Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. To my understanding, it wasn't that my role job that we're speaking about here. But Graham, I'm going to steal your thunder just for a minute here, because you're also speaking about how tomorrow's massive. Just remember, guys, this game's at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Ross County could beat Motherwell at 5:15. So if Ross County beat Motherwell, that's United 7 points outside Ross County before 6 o'clock tomorrow night, which would be stupendous. That would be astronomical for Jim Goodwin tomorrow night, if that was to be the case.
Graham?
100%. I mean, the thing is, if I touch on United, right, I think they've got quite a few problems. Now, for me, one of the main issues, and there's a few of them, and maybe Dave can jump in on this as well. One of the first issues that Jim Goodwin's got a problem with is they do not have a number one goalkeeper. Mark Birighitti has had a very poor season, very up and down. They bring in Jack Newman, who's only 21. He's not had a lot of game time. And then last week against Ross County, I don't know why he comes out for that ball in the first place. There's a massive mix-up between him, Charlie Mulgrew and Ryan Edwards, and they lose that first goal. That doesn't inspire confidence, so they've not got a first-choice goalkeeper. The other thing that I noticed last week as well, and it was highlighted more when I watched the highlights, they have no pace at the back. How many times last week did Ross County put a ball over the top or in behind, and Ryan Edwards and Mulgrew have got no pace? So that's another issue. United have got massive, massive issues. Now, Jim Goodwin's not got a transfer window. He's got to use what he's got. Again, I don't know how he gets... I don't know what he does with that United squad, because I've said it already. That Aberdeen squad is better than that United squad, and he got sacked from the Aberdeen job. What's he going to do better at United he couldn't do Aberdeen?
Can I say that this job will make or break Jim Goodwin? Because if he gets United relegated, it'll break him. If he survives for United, he'll get the job permanently, and it'll depend what happens from there onwards. And you're right, Graham. I think if he can make a difference to his United side, it'll get him back in the management structure again. But if he doesn't, he'll be back. He'll be in the media, and there's no question about that. Yeah, he's a very good coach and all that kind of stuff. But if he fails at Dundee United, I'll be brutally honest. He'll be in the media game and nowhere near the management picture, especially at a weak level such as the Premiership.
Barry Robson was asked today at his press conference about what was strange to come up against Jim Goodwin so soon after he left Aberdeen. Barry's response was, well, not strange for me. I haven't came up against Jim Goodwin as a coach or anything like that. So for me, it's not strange at all. I think for Jim, it's great that he left a huge club in Aberdeen and he's managed to get back into a top flight club like Dundee United. So I think for Jim, it is working well for him, and I'm sure he is pleased. I think he was having a wee dig there about Aberdeen being a big club. I wanted to get back on to Dave's point. Obviously, we're going to talk about TV rights in the second hour of the show. But Graham, again, another game going out to, I think it's ESPN tomorrow night in America, 5 o'clock. Is that our own goal for Scottish football again?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, did they not do this the last time as well? It was like the American stuff. It was on TV
Dundee,
as well.
Dundee.
I think I think it's pay-per-view. But I mean, this was going to be a big game anyway, and I would love to see this game on TV. The fact that it's 6 o'clock, and now the fact that Jim Goodwin's now in the Dundee United dugout, it makes it even bigger and an even more enticing game. I'd have loved to have seen this game live on TV. It would have been absolutely brilliant. So yeah, maybe it is about my own goal, but I just think it's such a massive, massive game tomorrow. You know, this used to be the New Firm Derby. That's what it was called when I was growing up, the New Firm Derby. I think it still has that same kind of enticement about it, but it's such a huge, huge game. There's so many different elements in this game. And as Dave rightly mentions, if Ross County win that game tomorrow against Motherwell, it's a huge, huge game for United. But United will then know what they've got to do. Well, they have to win. And that one of the main things that Jim Goodwin's got to do tomorrow is, what does he do in goals? Does he stick with Jack Newman, who made a really poor mistake last week, or does he put Mark Birighitti back in goal, who's been very, very poor? It's such a really intriguing game to figure out who's going to win this game. In terms of Aberdeen, I watched Aberdeen against Livingston last week, and I thought they deserved to win. There wasn't much in the game. You know, I think Bojan Miovski 17 goals this season, which is fantastic. I think him and Duke are a very good partnership, so they will fancy this tomorrow. But it's such a huge, huge game. It really is. And I'm really intrigued to see who's going to come out on top.
Dave, you stay in Aberdeen. You know a lot of Aberdeen fans. Maybe not going to the game tomorrow, I'm not sure. But what's the kind of like feeling from Aberdeen's point of view, especially going up against your ex-manager?
I can only testify and answer that question based on social media, because obviously I'm not really a type of guy that goes to the shop and goes, "Jim Goodwin, what are you thinking?" But I think with this one, I think there's obviously been not negativity, but there's obviously been a criticism about Jim Goodwin, and a lot of Aberdeen fans going, "I'd love it if we beat them." A bit like Kevin Keegan style on Sky Sports back in the 1990s, a bit like that a little bit. So I think there's been that kind of notion behind it. I mean, as Graham was touching upon earlier on, there's that fear that Jim Goodwin won't go and beat Aberdeen tomorrow, and it would be a disappointing one. But see, from Barry Robson's perspective, all the pressure's off Aberdeen tomorrow. It's normally 9 times out of 10 the pressure's on Aberdeen in these types of games. But tomorrow, Barry Robson could just go along the A90 to Dundee and go, "Look, it's another game of football, guys." Dundee might say exactly the same, but in terms of all the media speculation, in terms of all the stuff that's coming out externally, all the pressure will be done tomorrow. I think that'll be a good thing for Aberdeen. I've got speaking from an Aberdeen perspective, I've got a very good feeling about tomorrow, because obviously I was thinking about it and going, all the focus is going to be on Dundee. I don't think Jim Goodwin will handle it really, whilst Barry Robson could just not turn up and win, but obviously battle his way to get 3 points, and I think it's a perfect game as far as Robson's concerned.
I'm not going to say this because you're on, Dave, but I said to Graham before we come on air, I fancy Aberdeen tomorrow.
Yeah, as I'm saying, I think all the pressures are United tomorrow. We'll just see if they can handle that. Now, Tony Ashgar's left the club, Wayne Fox has left the club. There's been rumours about a takeover at the club. But if Aberdeen take the lead within the opening 15-20 minutes tomorrow, the negativity that's been poured onto Tannadice in recent weeks will continue tomorrow. If Aberdeen are on the front foot, maintain possession, or score a goal early, or dominate the play. So I think United have to start with a ruthlessness from the one goal. And if not, it could end up being a little bit negative from the home support.
See the thing from you, right? Aberdeen haven't won away from home since October. Now, I've just been checking their fixtures before the split. Obviously, they've got the game tomorrow. Then they play Hearts at home, St Johnstone away, Kilmarnock at home, Ross County at home, and Ross County away and Aberdeen at home. They are massive, massive games for Aberdeen to finish in that top six. Do you think they can, Dave, given that run of fixtures and the fact they can't win away from home?
Absolutely, because if you take Hearts and Atapush St Johnstone out of the equation, that's a very good run of games for Aberdeen. That's a run of games I've looked at and said, I think Aberdeen could pick up a lot of big points here. So, yeah, I think it's doable. I think Hearts will give us a big indication as to what's going to happen, as well as that St Johnstone game, because McDermott Park's a tough place to go to. It's not exactly the perfect of pitches just now because of the wintry weather. So I think take them two games out of the equation. I'll be interested to see how they get on, but there's definitely a lot of points to grab there as far as Aberdeen's concerned.
If Aberdeen gets into the top six, Dave, I know I said this to you before in a few weeks, the last time we were on the show together, but if Aberdeen gets into the top six, is it still a disappointing season for Aberdeen?
Probably. Because Darvel. Everybody will look at this season and say the word Darvel. And top six will be good, but you've got to remember here, guys, that top six, apart from if you finish in sixth position, guarantees you European football. It'll be the Conference League, and that won't be ideal from an Aberdeen point of view, but I might be in the minority here. But a Conference League, considering the predicament this array Aberdeen found themselves in, it's not a bad season at all. I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you both a question? I've not seen you for a while, both of you. And I know kind of Dave might have touched on this the last time I saw him, but it was only about a week and a half ago that we had that AGM, and Mark Ogden had come out and basically said, we've got no plans in place to change the manager. We're happy with the structure. If we go down, we'll come straight back up. There's not an issue. And now, in with space of a week, they've sacked the manager, appointed Jim Goodwin. They've lost Tony Ashgarth. I mean, what is the kind of feeling around United just now? Are people happy with Mark Ogden, or what's the general consensus around them just now?
That's quite a good question, actually, Graham, because I was listening to a podcast that Jim Spence was doing yesterday. He does one with the Curio Talking Football, featuring the journalist there. And I was quite fascinated because he obviously spoke to Mark Ogden because he didn't give any exclusives out or any insights, but basically the feeling I got out of it was basically that Mark Ogden was a little bit disappointed with the reaction. I think Mark Ogden's got the level of criticism that he has because Tony Ashgar has surpassed the requirements at the club from the fan base, certainly. And obviously, Liam Fox has been surpassing the requirements from the fan base and now the owners at the club. Now, I think the fact that what Mark Ogden told Jim Spence was the majority of our fan base is good, but there's a minority that will put the club down. And I think he's right, but I think from Ogden's perspective, I think it's the fact he hasn't been ruthless is why the United fans have been on him a little bit.
Okay, let's move on because I think we'll come back on Sunday and talk about the game as well.
Watch it finish 0-0 with nothing happening.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But also what Jim Goodwin said at his press conference is I'm waiting to get a nice reception from the Aberdeen fans and and a welcome from Dundee United fans. So, so I'll be interested to see that. But again, what an embarrassing for Scottish football, because that is a big game. Should be on the TV. But if you want to go to the game, if you want to see the game, I would guarantee if you leave for the airport now, you might get there in time to see the game tomorrow. Let's move on to Ibrox, Dave. Big game tomorrow. Rangers against Kilmarnock. Bottom of the table, Kilmarnock's fighting for their lives. And I'm sure that the last time Kilmarnock went to Ibrox, was that no Derek McInnes's first game at Ibrox against when they played against Rangers?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's going to be an interesting one tomorrow because Michael Beale said some rather fascinating stuff in his press conference before this game. That
He always does, Dave.
And sorry for stealing your thunder, but I completely disagree with what you said because Rangers' resources are far more superior to a Livingston, just to give you a genuine example. So I think, I don't know, I obviously haven't watched the press conference, so I don't know what the overall emphasis was behind it, sorry, but I think Rangers could go into this one with the approach that if they put up a professional performance tomorrow and be ruthless on the front foot, they can try and get the win. But for Kilmarnock, I'm interested to see how they go on because I didn't watch the whole press conference for either Derek McInnes or Christian Deutsch, but I listened to wee snippets and both of them had a little bit of confidence about them because they were both saying that if you use the home form, they're in the top six. If you use the away form, they're relegation contenders. And this might be a step too far for Kilmarnock tomorrow, unfortunately, because they just can't. Playing at home and playing away is two totally different things, and Kilmarnock just can't find that balance just now. So this could be a step too far. But Kilmarnock there's no pressure on Kilmarnock tomorrow. They just need to go to Ibrox with a no fear mentality and hope they get something out of the game.
What Michael Beale did say yesterday, he done this press conference yesterday, because I don't know if you know, Dave, the last few weeks Rangers has been holding their press conferences on a Thursday instead of a Friday. It makes life easier for me because Friday's all about watching press conferences and all that, so it's nice to split it up. But Michael Beale said, obviously, they started the press conference by speaking about the cup final that last week, and they said we underperformed there. That moment we could have done better. We were so disappointed, but on the day Celtic were the better team. It keeps coming away with this line, Dave, that, if I was a Rangers fan, I would be so annoyed about. He says, but we have to move forward. But that was our first defeat in 17 games, and we need 3 points tomorrow. Now, I said to Graham before we came on there, he doesn't really have to come out and make the comments. The Rangers fans and everybody knows that was our first defeat. But, why mention that?
Totally. I can't understand it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Celtic was a pillar boat to swallow. But when you look at the run that Rangers have been on, we've made the point in this show that Rangers haven't been excellent in some games, but still managed to get results. That's the most important thing for Rangers now. He's been on about the fact that people think it's a travesty not winning at Hampden last weekend, but exactly the same time, all Rangers fans need to acknowledge that this is a bit of a stepping stone for Michael Beale. It's his second real job in management. Queen's Park Rangers, it was never a finished product because he left after a wee while, after so many months. And I think Michael Beale just needed a bit more calmness about him in his press conference now. I think for Beale is, I just don't think, I think he has the credentials for top career management, but I honestly feel that he's a little bit brutal upon himself. in terms of the fact he's too critical of the Scottish game. Do you understand what I mean?
That's funny, Graham, that Dave mentioned that, because I was having a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, about watching this press conference. And when you watch Michael Beale's press conferences or after the game or whatever, I just get this feeling that he speaks about the Scottish game, but he's speaking down about the game.
Yeah, he does. And one of the comments that he also made really infuriated me, which I put on Twitter earlier on, which was Michael Beale insists Rangers are competing against the odds in Celtic battle as he points out financial muscle differences. Now, I've got something what he said here. I'm just going to read it out. The biggest clubs in the world spend hundreds of millions and get it wrong. That's the reality of recruitment. We're competing against the odds, if you like. In general, if you look at any league in the world, the team that spends the most is first. So we have to compete against the odds because we're not going to spend the most money. We're not going to recruit the finished product. Well, boo-hoo. Welcome to the world of every other Scottish football fan that doesn't follow Celtic and Rangers. We've been saying this for years, which I find quite funny because Celtic and Rangers fans especially have this thing about when they compete in Europe, they can't compete. How do you think we feel? Every time you're playing the Scottish League, we have the same problem. We cannot compete in the league. Michael Beale coming out with that statement is just ridiculous for me. Welcome to our world. Try being a Hearts fan, a St Mirren fan, a Livingston fan. We're up against that every single season. We don't complain about it. This is the way it is. I think Michael Beale, for me, has done a decent job so far. I thought his comments after the game last week, he was honest enough. And again, I think the thing he did against the Partick Thistle game, where he came out and basically gave Partick Thistle the goal, was fair enough. You know, it was good that he did that. But I do think at times when I listen to Michael Beale, I just think, what planet are you on, mate? Seriously, you're talking absolute nonsense at times. And I think I saw a lot of Rangers fans as well last week after the game complaining about some of the things that he did, i.e. the substitutions that he made. A lot of Rangers fans said that they should have started that midfield that eventually came on because, let's be honest, Glenn Kamara and Lundstrom were pretty poor last week. When they brought on Jack and who else? Raskin and somebody else, I think it was, that came on, they looked a lot better. And then, again, they take off Morelos, who scores the goal, and they bring on Cholak. And a lot of Rangers fans, again, and I can understand what they're talking about, said, why not go two up for him? You know, you're one goal down, why not just go for it? And he didn't do that. So I think Beale has done a decent job so far, but I think a lot of the times he talks in the press, he puts his foot in his mouth. And comments like that I've just read out really annoy me.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to my point, Graham, that I made about he doesn't really know about Scottish football. And if you're a Rangers fan and want to take offence with me or any of the other guys, please put it in the comments. But I just feel as though that every week, like when you watch this press conference, it always comes out with a headline.
I suppose it's great if you're in the media, but if you're a fan, you'll be thinking, what are you talking about, mate? Seriously, stop talking.
Injury news for Rangers. Dave's going into the game. Rangers midfielder Tom Lawrence will not feature. Hasn't featured since August, and now he is out for the rest of the season with a further injury. And also Kemar Roof, who will not feature for Rangers for the remainder of the campaign. And by the way, incidentally, this is because me saying this, I think Roof might be off in the summer, Dave.
I wouldn't just say Kemar Roof, Michael. I know that's who we're obviously focusing on here, but I wouldn't just say Kemar Roof. The fact that Rangers don't have the fact that Rangers don't have their senior figures tied in long-term contracts, I think it's got to be a bit of a concern for Rangers, because Ryan Kent's been a different player under Michael Beale. Kemar Roof maybe hasn't hit the same ceiling as he did under Van Bronckhorst, but Kemar Roof is still a pivotal player for Rangers. Morelos, his attitude looked okay on Sunday, but then again, there's been a lot of outcry for him to leave the club. So if I was a Rangers fan, let's be honest, I still think there's a title challenge on the horizon, but I think there's much more worse problems underlying them just now than just a title challenge. I think keeping a hold of players and trying to make sure they've got a settled squad for next season should be the priority right now in order to cement a proper title challenge in Celtic. In my honest opinion, Michael Beale has produced too many mind games this season since taking over at Rangers in terms of saying things about budgets and so forth. Right? Ange Postecoglou's went down a market, and he's went down a route that was new to Scottish football. Because let's be honest, Scottish football didn't really bring in players from Australia and Japan prior to Postecoglou coming in. So the fact that he's managed to get players from Oceania and Asia and make them pretty much stable home for the boys is nothing but impressive. And I think Michael Beale is a little bit envious, if we're going to be brutally honest about this.
Dave, I'm just reading something here that he never said in the press conference, but he might have said to the written press, because the Scotsman has reported it. He said none of the Rangers players in the final stages of the contract has been offered new deals. And that really goes back to Graham's point early on. And that's very interesting for me as well, because when you're talking about that, then you would have to talk about the on-field issues as well, i.e. the finances at Ibrox as well.
Absolutely. Now, it's an unclear picture just now whether Beale is going to rip up the picture and start with a clean slate, or whether he's genuinely interested in these players. If it's the latter, why not tie down? That's the $1 million question here, because there's a lot of big players in this Rangers team that, from the outside looking in, I'm looking at that Rangers team just now and looking at it and going, good team, but maybe needs 5 or 6 adjustments in certain areas to make it not the complete package, but make it look upgraded. So I think the fact there's a bit of a silence is slightly concerning if I was a Rangers supporter.
Graham, am I right in saying at that time, well, I did say on the show, I need to watch it back word for word what I said, but I can't be bothered doing that because I don't like watching myself. But I said at the time, was Rangers too quickly to, if it wasn't for the AGM, would they be appointing a bigger profile manager than Michael Beale?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know who they wanted or who was out there, but I mean, the thing is as well, you look back to the fact that Michael Beale, when he was at QPR, I think he turned down another job, I think Wolves, I think it was, and then he's turned up at Rangers. I mean, I think we all know Rangers are a massive club, right? I know there's Celtic fans that watch this show. No, but they are a massive club, let's be honest. And I think to manage Rangers, you need a bit of something about you, and I'm just not sure Michael Beale's got that. Yes, he's done okay so far, but I think from what I've seen so far, I think they've only had 2 really good performances against Livingston and the one at Hearts at Tynecastle. I thought they were very good in both those games. The other games, now again, it's results business. They have been winning, but I don't think they've been overly impressive. So I think that might be a slight concern. And I think for me, you can't, I know there'll be Rangers fans that say, no, this is rubbish, but I don't think you can judge Beale until next season when he's got a summer window and it's starting from scratch again. I think this season he could still potentially win the Scottish Cup, although I don't think they will. I think, and I hate saying this as a Hearts fan, I think Celtic win the treble because I think they will beat Hearts in the Scottish Cup. Unfortunately, I hate saying this to any Hearts fans that watch this are probably turned off, but I think they probably will beat us. So I think you've got to judge Beale on next season when you've got to start from scratch. If next season they are, let's say by September, for example, or September, October, they are still quite a few points behind, then I think there'll be questions asked. But at the moment, he's doing an okay job, but I think he could probably do better. And I think as well, I think a lot of the players could do better as well. Again, I don't think Ryan Kent's been particularly great. I think Morelos is, again, at times flattered to deceive a little bit. They still, and I don't know if I saw something on Twitter earlier on, I don't know if John Souttar is back yet. If he's still not quite back yet, I'm not sure. But they need to get him fit as well. And as you mentioned, Tom Lawrence won't be there till next season. So I think there are players to come back on the Rangers team, but I think he's done okay. But I think he could probably do better.
Dave, the other week, before we move on to talk about Kilmarnock, I just wanted to talk about Michael Beale's press conference as well. If you ask any kind of Rangers fan deep down, they would say, well, the league's kind of over. But for a manager, basically, could come out and say that. If I was a Rangers fan or if I was a PR guy sitting beside Michael Beale, I would say, why did you say that for? Because you're only writing headlines for yourself.
I get what you're saying, but I think it's mind games, and it's not something I'd be pleasantly pleased about. But exactly the same time, I think it is mind games as far as Michael Beale's concerned, because it isn't over until it's over. I know it's a bit of an old cliche me saying that, but it isn't over until it's over, and that'll be what people are thinking now. As far as Rangers fans are concerned, there is a division on this. There is the half that are saying, right, title challenge is over, Celtic want it. And there's the other half that are saying, don't give up until it's over and done with. And I think the attitude of Rangers players is going to be vital in the next few weeks, because the Old Firm's coming up, and with that in mind, we'll just see if the attitude's spot on and if mentality's spot on prior to that game in question, because the next Old Firm is absolutely pivotal as far as Rangers are concerned.
Can I also just say as well, the last couple of weeks, right? And again, I know that players saying to the media that's just what they do, but you've had before the game last week, you've had like Fascist Cala coming out and talk about that mob. You've also had, I think it was yesterday, John Lundstrom coming out and saying that there's not a massive gap between the two teams. I think if I'm a supporter, there is a massive gap. You know, you look at the league table, there is a gap. You look at the fact that Celtic won that game last week, and let's be honest, they could in the end have won that game by a couple of goals because Celtic had chances right at the end. Now, I know that when you go into a press conference, you've got to try and kind of talk yourself up and stuff. But I think as well, a lot of the players have not done themselves any favours, because if you're a Fascist Cala, if you're going to say that kind of thing about like that mob and stuff, say it after the game when you've won. Don't say it before the game, because that just gives credence to the fact that Celtic have gone and won the game. Don't say that before a game, because you make yourself look really daft.
I kind of want to throw that one back to Dave, but when I was watching that press conference last week when they said that, Dave, I've came to the conclusion that somebody told him to say that. I would be very surprised if was maybe one of his teammates.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's those type of things that you think you can get away with, but you don't get away with nowadays, and that is for me, that's a PR thing, because people think you can get away with certain things, and it's completely the opposite. So,
it's just because it's a cup final as well, Dave.
100%, absolutely.
Okay, Kilmarnock now. Derek McKenna said yesterday we need to get off to a strong start on the game. We need to be organised, and we need to frustrate Rangers on the day. I should have said, apart from Tom Rollins and Kemar Roof, everybody is fit and ready to go for Rangers tomorrow. As for Kilmarnock, the only injury doubt, well, not injury doubt, he's out the team now, as Liam Donnery. He is out the team for Kilmarnock tomorrow. Graham, would you give them any chance
to be honest, no. They might, but I really don't see it. I think you've got to imagine that Rangers at home will be far too strong. But I mean, Kilmarnock were, again, they're one of these teams that are very up and down. First half against Motherwell last week, I thought they were the better side, could have won the game quite comfortably. And in the second half, Motherwell changed things about. Stuart Kettle did a very good job. And in the end of the day, Sam Walker, the Kilmarnock goalkeeper, got man of the match. So it just shows how well Motherwell played that second half. Kilmarnock are a really difficult team for me to judge. I mean, they are only 4 points off the bottom. I don't think they'll get anything tomorrow off Rangers. But again, when you go to Ibrox like Kilmarnock, you're not maybe expected to take anything. But I think if Kilmarnock can go there, put up a decent show, and maybe have a goal, the Kilmarnock fans might be all right with that. But I think if they lose an early goal, I think the thing is, you talk about frustration. I think that will be the cause tomorrow. If they can frustrate Rangers for as long as they can and keep themselves in the game, maybe nick a free kick or a corner or something. But I think if they lose an early goal, it could be 4 or 5. So it's a difficult game. But again, Kilmarnock won't be expected to get in and out of this game. I think for me, Kilmarnock have got to look to win their home games. I don't think I need to get the fixtures up for the rest of the season. They can't have many games to go either. Let me get the fixtures up. Kilmarnock, because I want to see who they've got to the end, before the end of this split. So Kilmarnock before the split, they've also got Scottish Cup action as well. So they play tomorrow. They've got Inverness in the Cup. Then they play at home to St Johnstone. They're at home to Hearts, away to Aberdeen, at home to Celtic, and away to St Mirren. They are really difficult fixtures. I mean, looking at that, I mean, you've got to look to in your home games, but that's a very difficult run they've got. I think Kilmarnock, for me, looking at those fixtures, I think they probably, because I think United are going to go down. I think they're going to go straight down. Jim Goodwin, I just don't think he's got enough to keep them up. I think United are going to go down. I think looking at those fixtures, I think Kilmarnock are going to get second bottom. I think they'll be second bottom. Whether they stay up through the playoff, I don't know. But I think, for me, I don't think they've got enough to stay up. And that's what I mentioned earlier on about the gap. There's not much between the top of the Championship and the bottom of the Premiership. I think if you're let's say a Dundee, for example, if Queen's Park come up, I think Dundee would fancy beating Kilmarnock. I really do. So I think Kilmarnock could potentially be in the Championship next season.
Okay, let's move on. Another manager's job when I was away, Stuart Kettlewell came in, and now he is a permanent manager. And also, it's funny, Glenn, because he goes back to his former employers tomorrow up at Ross County. And I was reading during the week, I think it was on the Abel group chat, was maybe you put it in as well, right? Richard Forster is now the assistant manager at Motherwell. And all I said to that was Amy McDonald will be doing a half-time entertainment, because if you don't know, they are man and wife. And also, if they're looking for another coach, James McFadden might come back. In fact, just bring the whole BBC in. It's fine and stuff. But Kettlewell's done a decent job with them so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 7 points out of 9. He's done a very good job. I'll be honest, I didn't expect him to get the job, but to be fair, he's done well. You know, they were very good against Hearts. I said that last week again. Second half against Kilmarnock, they were very impressive. So he's done a very good job. I thought Motherwell needed a bit more experience, and I mean, he does have that. But yeah, I mean, again, I think from what I saw, they've brought in Stephen Frail as assistant manager, and Richard Foster is, I don't know what this is, head of coaching. I've got no idea what that means. It's a very strange title, but if it gets him off sports scene, then fair enough. But yeah, I mean, it's sorry, Amy, I like you, but Richard Foster's horrendous. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange appointment, but fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I think Stuart Kettlewell will do a decent job there. Again, there's not much in it, but looking at the league table again, Motherwell are 9th on 27 points. I mean, there's not really much in it between them and Aberdeen in 6th place. So if they can get run together, but again, that's very difficult to do, they maybe could be challenging for that top 6. But yeah, I think Stuart Kettlewell's done a decent job so far. He looks like he's got a bit more about him than Stephen Hamill did. And again, a bit like Liam Fox, I felt sorry for Hamill, because you could tell that Hamill really loves Motherwell, a bit like Liam Fox loved United, but it just didn't work out, unfortunately. I think Stuart Kettlewell's come in, he's done a very good job, and it's a big, big game tomorrow. If they can go to Ross County, but then Ross County on the back of that win last week, they'll be flying high. So it's a difficult game to call, but it's a huge, huge game for Kettlewell. If he can win that game, then that'll be what? I think it's maybe 10 points out of the last 4 games. That'd be fantastic for them.
I actually enjoy listening to Stuart Kettlewell on his press conference, Graham. I watched him the last few weeks as well, and he speaks well about the game, and you can tell he's passionate as well. So hopefully that will transfer on to the team. Kettlewell said yesterday that he is going back to his old team. I'm looking forward to the challenge going back up there. But Malcolm Mackay is a decent manager, and Ross County is a good team. Another decent game tomorrow, Grim, because Ross County is a hard nut to crack when you go up to Dingwall.
Yeah, I mean, I know United were awful last week, but I've got to say Ross County were fantastic, and I think for me, Eamon Brophy has been a fantastic signing. He was brilliant last week. He scored 2, he made 2, he was excellent. Jordan White, we had Paul Mitchell on the show actually last week, and he was going to the game doing the commentary on it, and he actually said that he would like to see Jordan White scoring a few more goals. Well, he delivered last week because he did score a really good goal as well. So yeah, Ross County have done a really good job. Mackay is a good manager. I know he's got a lot of stuff in his past that folk aren't keen about, but I think he's a very good manager. And for me, especially at home, they're going to be a very difficult side to beat. And they'll be flying after last week. They were very impressive last week. And again, I know United were poor, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And Ross County were excellent last week. And again, Simon Murray came off the bench. A really good signing. We spoke about that in the January window. A very good signing. So I think Ross now have got enough to stay up. And I think to me, and I know Kettlewell's done well so far, I fancy County tomorrow. On the back of that last week, Eamon Brophy's playing well. I fancy County to win that.
And if it keeps up, it won't be Kettlewell, it'll be Kettle on for Graham to make him a hot wee cup of tea after the show, 2 sugars and milk. Let's move on now. Livingston against Hibs, and before I go anywhere with this game, and I know you said that last week, Graham, on the show as well, well, thinking about Ron Gordon's family at this difficult time, that was a shock to everyone in the game. So thoughts and prayers with his family at this difficult time, and that's when football kind of takes a backseat, Graham, because life in your health is more important than a stupid game of football. Let's face it.
No, I mean 100%. I think I completely echo that, and I said that last week. It came as a, he'd only wrote that open letter to the Hibs fans not that long ago, and then all of a sudden, unfortunately, he's passed away, and he was only no age at all. I think he was only 68, no age at all. And you can see that he had the best interest of Hibs at heart. So, yeah, it's a massive, massive loss to the game and to Hibs as well. And I think just because it was such a shock, we knew eventually that he had cancer, but we didn't know how bad it was. So, yeah, it's a massive shock, and I can only echo those sentiments. Football, at the end of the day, it's not important. Health is, and family is. And we can only echo the thoughts of everyone at Hibs and everyone in the family as well. It's a sad glass loss, and I think there is a minute silence before the game tomorrow, which is quite right as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just and I know I think it's his son is the head of recruitment there. So again, what he must be feeling just now, goodness only knows.
Yeah, no, I know we have 2 hours on a Friday and a Sunday to talk about football, but it puts life into perspective though a wee bit, and I know you've had some sad news in the last couple of weeks in your family as well, but that's when you think, well, it's only a game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, cancer is horrible. It's a horrible disease. I wish that we could eradicate it. I wish we could get rid of it. Unfortunately, we can't. But it's horrible, and it has affected me big time. It's affected my family the last few weeks. So yeah, it's horrible. So I completely understand how they feel. And I just hope that they can get through it at this sad time. And, maybe tomorrow it'll be a chance to take the mind off it a little bit once the game starts. You want to try and win the game. And it's a big, big game for both teams again. Hibs are only 5 points behind Hearts, but they do have games to come against Celtic and Rangers. I know they play Rangers on Wednesday night when Hearts play Celtic at Celtic Park. So big games to come. And Lee Johnson, we spoke about weeks ago. We talked about the Hibs Aberdeen game is going to be El Sacchio. Lee Johnson's turned things round. Lee Johnson's done a decent job now. He's managed to turn things round, which we never thought was coming, because there was a lot of talk that if Hibs lost that game, he'd be out the door. So he's turned things round. So yeah, fair play to Lee Johnson. and I feel sick saying that. But yeah, he's done a very good job so far, and if they could win tomorrow, again, a difficult game at Livingston. Livingston, again, last week against Aberdeen, I watched the game. They really didn't offer a lot. I was surprised at how poor Livingston were last week. They just never really offered much. And I know that David Martindale said there was only, obviously, the goal in it. And there was. But I thought Aberdeen were the better side. But at Amon Vale, we all know what it can be like. It's a massive, massive game for both teams tomorrow.
Before Lee Johnson was speaking about the game tomorrow, they were asking him about his relationship with the late, great Ron Gordon, and he said that Johnson said we had a good working relationship with Ron, and he was a leader of our football club. He was brilliant for me. And again, he was going to speak about the game, Graham. He says it's not easy to prepare for this game, but I'm sure Ron would be wanting us to go out there and win the game. It's going to be a very difficult game on the pitch, but the players are confident. And also, I wanted to get your thoughts about Aidan McGeady. He's out for 4 months, so his season is over. Disappointed from a Hibs point of view, Graham.
Oh, it's a massive blow. I think him alongside Ellie Ewan have probably been two of Hibs' better players, to be honest. So it's going to be a massive, massive loss. And let's be honest, Aidan McGeady is not getting any younger, but he's got something about him. He's got that creativity. He's got that bit of something, that bit of skill that he's able to create something. He'll be a massive, massive loss. And I don't know how they're going to replace him, but hopefully he gets back to full fitness soon enough, but not enough to play Hearts and cause us problems. But yeah, it'll be a huge, huge miss. And I think tomorrow will be an emotional day as well for Hibs. And I think it is a case of, once the game starts, you get down to business. And I think Ron Gordon, for me, even as a Hearts fan, you kind of get these owners that come in and they're not really that bothered. It's all about money for them. I didn't get that impression with Ron Gordon. I think he immersed himself with Hibs. He actually cared about the club. He wanted to do his best by the club. He obviously got rid of Sean Maloney, which was the right decision. He could have got rid of Lee Johnson a few weeks ago when they lost those 2 games to Hearts, but he thought, no, I'm going to stick with you. And Johnson's turned it round. So, yeah, I'm sure that Ron Gordon's up there watching and hoping that Hibs can win tomorrow. But the fact that the fact that Aidan McGeady is going to be out is a huge, huge blow. But Hibs, for me, have shown that they've got enough in that squad. And for me, as a Hearts fan, I hate saying this, but Ellie Ewan for me has been excellent recently. He's been a real shining light, probably one of the standouts in the Premiership. He's got quality, he's got pace, he's got creativity, and he's now added something that he hasn't had before, which is goals. So he'll be a huge threat to Livingston tomorrow.
David Martindale said, we at home and we are capable of taking points off anyone. Lee has done a good job. They're in good form, but there's no reason why we can't get top 6. And also, Graham, David Martindale was talking about being the manager of Livingston. I think it was very interesting for me to hear that Livingston is a kind of southern club, because he said that if any players get out there, if any players comes to me with a kind of, if they want to move on with a better deal, well, I'll let them go, and that must be the ethos throughout the Livingston team.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just looking at the last couple of fixtures. They obviously lost to Inverness in the Cup. They lost to Rangers in the league. They lost last week. The last 3 games they've not scored, and they've not, for me, been overly impressive. And I've said before, I'm a massive fan of David Martindale, but last week against Aberdeen, they were that's probably the poorest I've seen them play. They offered nothing. So they've got to improve tomorrow, and I think they will. One of the big things for me last week was Joe Newbley.
Are you okay there?
I've had a real bad cough for the last few days, and it's starting to annoy me. But yeah, I think this is the Paul Mitchell effect, because he did the same thing last week. I hope I don't die on camera. That would be a shock. But yeah, I think Livingston, for me, they've got. I'm glad you're laughing. I think Livingston for me.
Well, what else can they say?
Well, that's true. Sorry, this is a good one. I mean, I think Livingston for me have had a very good season. They are sitting 7th. I still think, can they finish in that top 6? It's going to be difficult. But they're only, I'm checking, I wrote the league table down in front of me actually. They're only 2 points off Hibs. So that makes tomorrow a huge, huge game. You've got to assume for me, and maybe I shouldn't make assumptions, but if they win that game, they would go into 4th. Aberdeen don't play till the night game. So this is what I love about this Finnish Premiership. It is so tight at the top, or so tight in that kind of middle section. But for me, Livingston need to play better than they did last week because they were very, very poor last week, and I was surprised because I expected more.
I will speak for the last 20 minutes to fill in for Graham, and let's hope he's okay. Let's move on to, this will put a smile on Graham's face now. We're going to, or maybe it won't, I don't know. We're going to talk about Hearts next. They are at home to St Johnstone tomorrow, and Robbie Nielsen said that we have a way of playing. We didn't do it in the previous game of P-League. It's just a case of getting back to it and getting back to winning ways. When you do the basics right, you will win the game. And then he goes on about, we're in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. We have a great European campaign. We're still in third place in the league. So let's not get too carried away. Well, away with ourselves tomorrow. So up until maybe next week, obviously Hearts is going the Scottish Cup the now, Graham. But another season, what's your big say?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have had a very good season. I think we've had a lot of injuries. We've got players still to come back. We did, I think I said this a few weeks ago, I did worry how the European games would affect us, but we've done well. And I think the comment that Robbie made there about we've got a way of playing, this is something that I've kind of been a bit frustrated about. Now, I do agree, he does have a way of playing, but unfortunately, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but what I've noticed quite a lot, and a lot of Hearts fans have said the same thing to me as well when I do these Twitter chats, is everything seems to have to go through Robert Snodgrass. And if I'm a manager, as what Motherwell did, what Stuart Kettlewell did, if I'm a manager, I'm saying to my players, stick a man on Snodgrass and let's see what Hearts do. And we couldn't deal with that. Now, I said again last week, the Motherwell game, we were awful. And I've said again, see if Hearts get beat. I can accept that if we play well. But what I can never accept is getting outfought. And Hearts got outfought that day. Now, I would like to see Hearts change formation because he seems to stick to this 3 at the back quite a lot. Now, I would like to see Robbie switch and go 4-2-3-1 because I think it gets our best players in the best positions. But, and again, and I think I said this on my Twitter chat as well, I'm a huge, huge fan of Barry Mackay, but Barry Mackay has been awful for weeks. For me, tomorrow, in my team, he doesn't start. He should be on the bench. So tomorrow's a big game because let's just say, and I hope this doesn't happen, let's just say we get beat and Hibs win. They close the gap. So tomorrow's a massive, massive game. And also the fact we play Celtic on Wednesday at Celtic Park, which I don't expect to get a night off. I think we'll get hammered in, unfortunately. I hate saying that. I hate to be negative, but every time we go to Celtic Park, I just know we're going to get beat. So tomorrow's a huge, huge game. We have to win this game tomorrow. And we're up against a St Johnstone team who, for me, have been a lot better recently than they have been. I think Callum Davis has done a very good job. They are sitting 8th and 31 points. They, again, could potentially get in that top 6. So it's a huge, huge game tomorrow. But at home, with that Hearts crowd behind them, I do expect Hearts to win. But I just want Robbie to change formation and play with a bit more pace and tempo. Because, again, another thing that frustrates me about Hearts at times, and I've said this as well, we start games far too slowly. See if we start games quickly and start with a tempo and a pace, we look very good. But we do rely on, I think when it was probably about 2-3 years ago, we had Stephen Naismith in the team. When Naismith got injured, we had no idea what to do. And now it's the same thing with Snodgrass in the team. And I love Snodgrass, but everything has to go through him. And that needs to change.
As for St Johnson, they've been, another decent season for Callum Davison. Everybody kind of wrote him off last season because they won the playoffs and they got through that okay. They've had a decent season again. And, we'll keep saying this, not that because I want rid of him or for St Johnson, but I think he's due a bigger job somewhere, Glenn, that season. No disrespect to St Johnson, but he's a decent manager.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if I said this last week before, but the two longest 7 managers in the Premier League are Robin Nielsen and Callum Davidson. So it just goes to show. And again, Callum Davidson could easily have been sacked last season, but I said fair play to Jeff Brown for keeping him on. And he's done a very good job. And again, we keep saying this every week, but Stevie May has been very impressive. Nicky Clark has been a great signing. Andy Considine has been a bit of a steady presence at the back. He's done a very good job. And I think last week against St Mirren, although, and I know a lot of folk have mentioned this as well, I still, for me, and I don't know if you've seen this, I don't think that Daniel Phillips sending off was a sending off. I don't agree that it's a sending off.
No.
I don't know where Dan Phillips can put his foot. He tries to turn. He obviously doesn't know that Ryan Flynn's there. He puts his foot down. Yes, it catches him late, but there's no malice in that. I don't think that's a red card. So St Johnson have been denied a player tomorrow for a sending off that I don't think should have been a sending off.
I did see that sending off. I'm a bit torn about like what. I suppose you're right in a way, but I can see why he gets sent off for. But yeah. I get, but again, it's a kind of bit unfair. I was going to say, Graham, when you read that out there about the longest 7 managers, is David Martindale? It's not up there.
No, it's Callum Davidson and Robin Nielsen.
Right, okay. I thought David Martindale would be in there and about because he's been with Livingston, but was he not assistant manager to Gary Holt?
Let me just check. I love Google. Honestly, it's great. Let me just check. So, David Martindale, here we go. I got his stats up here. So, he took over at Livingston manager in 2020.
Oh, right, okay. I thought it was longer than that, but there you go. Okay, let's move on to the last game of the weekend and the only game that's on Sky this weekend. Here's my rant. Did you notice it, Glenn? As St Mirren against Celtic, 2:00 kickoff. Now, this is a very interesting game, Glenn, because not only because it's away from home and it's on a tight park, but St Mirren was the last team to beat Celtic at St Mirren Park before the World Cup. Obviously, totally different now, but it's still going to be a very difficult game for Celtic.
Yeah, it will be, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of folk looking at that game thinking, well, St Mirren have done it once, could they do it again? And I know that I think you maybe said a couple of weeks ago in the Cup game that St Mirren actually came to Celtic Park and, up until the sending off, they were in the game. They played well and they had a goal. So I don't think they'll change. I think it could be a very difficult game. I do expect Celtic to win, and obviously after the Cup win last week, which they deserve to win, it'll be a massive, massive game. But I mean, for St Mirren, again, they've had a good season. I think Robertson, I don't know if Azzolino's watching the show that normally contributes, but this is a big, big game. St Mirren have had a good season. They're sitting 5th, comfortably sitting 5th. So this is a big, big game. And I think they'll fancy this. They can do exactly what they did same time they played Celtic last time. Make it very difficult, press them, get in their faces. And I do think Celtic win, but it'll be a difficult game. It's a huge, huge game. And I think Robertson, again, has done a very good job at St Mirren. I think they've done a very, very good season so far. And, Tony Fitzpatrick could talk to him about being in the top 6. Well, there's every chance they could do that. If they win tomorrow, if they do a double at home over Celtic, That would be fantastic. But I do think this Celtic squad is just too strong. And I talk about this every week. But the bench that Celtic have got, the players they can bring off the bench is incredible. You know, you're up against real quality. And Celtic could, and I don't know if they will, but Celtic could make 4 or 5 changes on Sunday and it wouldn't make any difference. They're still bringing in quality. So it's a massive game. But I think if you're Robinson and St Mirren fans, you'll be looking at this game thinking, you know what? We fancy this. This is a big game.
No, I think you made this comment before, Graham, and I kind of back you up by saying that Carl Vickers has left the club, but nobody notices because it's like Celtic's like a conveyor belt of, you know what I mean. Somebody goes away, somebody comes in, they know their job, they do it, they win a game, and then somebody goes out, and then somebody else comes in, do the exact same job as well, and that's down. I think that's more down to the team spirit and Andrei Postecoglou at the minute. You saw that last week in the game, only for about 15 minutes. Rangers came back into the game because I felt as though when Rangers got the goal, it got the tails up for Rangers, but Celtic handled that kind of storm quite well. They had to fight for the last 15 minutes, but they got over the line at the end of the day. Andrei Postecoglou said today that there's no issues from the weekend about injuries. He was talking about no injury from the weekend. Enjoyed the celebrations, but we need to be at it again. Training has been good this week, and we are ready to go. And they are very. Also, he was saying that St Mirren is a very strong team. Now, compared to Michael Beale and other managers, Graham, when you watch Postecoglou's press conference, he's very laid back. He doesn't get carried away. Okay, Celtic won the first domestic cup last week, but he's one of these managers, and I think I said this to you before, the game's over, but he wants to win the next game.
Yeah, and I think that's what you should do as a manager. You know, I think after every game, yes, you celebrate it like last week, but then your immediate thought should be, right, we've got a game next week. We've got to concentrate on that. And I think that's what you should be doing. And I think, there's no denying Postecoglou's done a very good job at Celtic. You know, I don't want to say he's transformed them because that Celtic squad is, I remember in a way he probably has, but Celtic do have the resources. But he has signed very well. And I think I mentioned this last week as well. You're judged on results, but you're judged on recruitment as well. And there's a lot of times that you can sign 10. I think I mentioned this to Oren actually last week. You can sign 10 players and 8 of them can be terrible. But Postecoglou, to be fair, has got a very good record at signing players and they've all been very impressive. Maybe Ideguchi hasn't maybe worked, but he's just not had a lot of games. But again, I look at the players that were there before. And again, I kind of feel actually sorry for him. Because Anthony Ralston never got a minute last week. And Ralston's been very good this season. But he can't get in that team because Alistair Johnson's come in and done a very good job. So Celtic have got a very strong squad there. And again, there was a lot of talk last week before the game about would they play Kyogo, would they play O? Kyogo starts and scores 2 goals. Now, he could easily rest Kyogo on Sunday, bring in O, and it would make no difference. You still expect O to come in and do a job. So what Postecoglou's got there is a very, very strong squad. You've got players that want to play. You've got I don't want to big up Celtic too much as a Hearts fan, but for me...
Not before Wednesday night.
No, I know. I think Aaron Moy has been a sensational signing. I genuinely wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what to expect when he came into Celtic. He's been a very, very good signing. He's so composed in the ball. And that midfield 3 that Celtic have got. And again, I mentioned this to Alan Morrison in that last week. For me, I think Hatate's been the player of the season. I think he's the best. I think he's the best player in the Premiership by far. He
got the player of the month.
Yeah, Hatate's been absolutely brilliant. And you look at the fact that when he came in, I think it was Postecoglou himself said that he's not had a lot of games. He's still trying to get fit. Well, look at him now. He's running games. He's dominating games. He's scoring goals. Some of the goals he's scoring as well are fantastic. So I think Hatate's been brilliant. And just to look at that Celtic squad, and it is so, so strong. And I think as a fan of another team, I look at that squad and think, I'm actually quite envious of that squad because it is such a good squad. And you look at the difference in benches from Celtic to everyone else. It is so, so strong.
You mentioned Gareth Johnson, Graham, right? And now, see if we were having this conversation before the World Cup, you would be saying, who? Who's that? But now you're saying, oh, he's a brilliant player. But that's my point, right? Because when Postecoglou came to Celtic and they was going halfway around the world, I mean, I think Celtic was linked with somebody at Kosovo at one point in time, and it was playing in Sweden. But when Postecoglou was signing all these players from Japan and Canada now and all that, you would think, why? But now that they've come in and done a decent job, but what I would say, and I've said this to you before in the show, that Postecoglou thinks outside the box, if you know what I mean, in terms of like when managers come in, they always go to, like Robbie Nielsen, for instance, I know Robbie Nielsen signed a couple of Japanese players now, but just using Robbie Nielsen for an example, now, if he come into a team, he would go to, Spain, Italy, England, France, right? But when Postecoglou comes in, he's actually saying, oh no, we'll go to Japan, Australia, Canada, miles away to sign all these players, thinking outside the box. And just because that you haven't heard of the player like Alex Johnson doesn't mean to say they're a naff football player, Grim.
100%. I mean, I think they've proved that. A lot of Celtic fans were thinking once Juranovic left, who were they going to bring in?
Yeah,
and
that's another example. Yeah,
I mean, Johnson's been very impressive. He was excellent last week. I think he probably could have had a couple of assists last week as well if Kyogo, maybe Jota taking their chances. But he's been a very good signing. I think it just shows Postecoglou in the transfer market knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking for, and Celtic fans trust him. If Ange Postecoglou sees a player and he brings him in, Celtic fans know this guy must be a player because Postecoglou's not letting them so far. So he knows a player. And I've said before as well, I think the Asian market is something a lot more teams should go. I think a lot more teams should go down that market because it is a good market to go down. Now, Hearts have brought in
Sorry. I was just going to say, has Murrow not signed one from Japan, was it?
I think they did actually, yeah. But I mean, Hearts have brought in Yutaro Oda on a 3-year deal. Mm-hmm. Now he's not had much game time so far, but when he has played, I think he's looked all right so far. A lot of Hearts fans are not convinced, but I think he's looked all right so far. He's quick, he's quite skillful. I'd like to see more of him, but I think the Asian market and the Australian market, as we know, well, like Cammy Devlin and that, has been very impressive. So I think you've got to kind of look a bit further afield and don't just go to England or Scotland or, as you mentioned, Spain and stuff. Go a bit further abroad because you can pick up decent players, and Celtic have shown that. And yes, obviously when you bring players in, it can be a bit hit and miss. But the Celtic players that have come in, like Kyogo, like Jota, like Abada, for example, have hit the ground running, and they've been very impressive. So Postecoglou knows the market. He knows what he's bringing in, and it's worked.
And now this is another conversation for another show, Graham. But if Celtic wins the treble, and it's a big if at the moment, and you're hoping Celtic won't win the treble, and that's when they play Hearts. But would you put Postecoglou up in the same bracket as Martin O'Neill's team?
It's funny because I asked this question to Oren and Alan Morrison last week because I did say that there is kind of people talking about
comparisons there.
Yeah, well, I was actually more mentioning like Postecoglou's team and Brendan Rodgers' team who went in that 69 game unbeaten run. And I can see where the comparisons would come in. But I think for me, do you know what? I think I said this last week. I think Brendan Rodgers' team played the best football I've seen from anyone in Scotland for a long, long time. Now, I think Postecoglou's team is getting to that stage. But at the moment, I think they've maybe still got a little bit more to do. I think Martin O'Neill's team as well was great. Martin O'Neill's team something Hearts and Larsson was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think if Celtic win the treble this season, and there's no reason that they can't. I hope they don't, obviously, because I want Hearts to beat them. But I just think that Celtic's the thing I look at, and I keep talking about this, is that squad. You look at the bench, and it's just so strong. You got guys like David Turnbull on the bench who can't get a game. Yet when David Turnbull comes on, he tends to score or has an assist.
Yeah.
Even last week, you've got like Leela Bada. You've got such quality on that bench. I think this is probably one of the strongest Celtic teams I've seen. And again, it is difficult to make comparisons, but I can understand why there is comparisons. But my kind of, and I'm not saying this won't happen for a while. I'm not saying this will happen, but I think Postecoglou, for me, and again, this might be controversial, I think Postecoglou could potentially get a job in the top, maybe the top 8 in the English Premiership and do a decent job in there.
I think when you put it like that, Graham, I think at the moment, maybe I think like he's up there with Martin O'Neill's team, but the difference is Celtic might have to do something in Europe because, don't forget that Celtic, okay, they get beat in the final and all that, but I mean, you think of the teams that they beat, Liverpool, Blackburn, Boavista, big names in there, but Celtic's not beat I think they've failed in Europe so far, and I think that's only if we had to get angry on the locker room, I think that's only the regret that we have at the moment, because they've dominated Scottish football so far, and you might hate me saying that from a from a Hearts point of view, but they have. But I think the only piece in the jigsaw is to do something in Europe.
Yeah, and I think Postecoglou know that. They know they can win the league. They know they can win the cups. They retained the League Cup last week. I think that will be a thing that Postecoglou wants to sort this season or next season, is that European run. Because Celtic showed, and we did the special shows, Celtic showed in a lot of those games, they played well. They just didn't take their chances. And when you play the likes of Real Madrid, who they were excellent against in most of that game, you have to take your chances, because if you don't, their quality will show. And I think, I'm trying to go back in my memory here because it's a long time ago, but even if you go back to that final against Porto, when Henrik Larsson scored those 2 goals, Celtic, for me, should have won that game. And I think, from what I can remember, from what I can remember, I'm trying to set some memory here. They were cheated out of that game by Mourinho's team. Mourinho's team were pretty much, they were play acting, they were pretty dirty, they weren't a very good team, that Porto side. And I think that might be one regret that Martin O'Neill's got, that they didn't win that game, but they were kind of cheated. I remember watching that game at my girlfriend's house at the time, and Celtic were a better team, better side that night. They just didn't have that experience, and Porto under Mourinho had that bit more kind of experience about them to win that game. But Celtic, for me, in the games this season in Europe, competed very well. They just didn't take their chances, and that's something that next season they've got to do better. If they get the chances, you've got to take them, because if you play against Real Madrid, they will take them.
Good, before we move on then, because I know that we've got 10 minutes left, and I don't think your voice will keep up for another hour. Let's speak about St Mirren then. A decent season so far.
Yeah, they've had a very good season. I genuinely didn't expect that at the start of the season when they were knocked out of the League Cup early. They've had a very good season, and I wish Azzolino was on the contribution today. Maybe he's gone on strike, I don't know. But I think St Mirren have done I think St Mirren have done very well this season. Really, really have. And if they can finish top 6, and there's no reason they couldn't, it would be a massive achievement. I think the Scottish Cup game against Celtic, again, we keep going back to the fact that they had that man sent off. Richard Tate was sent off. I'm still not sure I said it off, to be honest. But yeah, I think they've had a very good season. And I think if they can beat Celtic at home twice this season, that'll be a huge achievement for Robinson. But I think he's done a very good job. I think they can be very proud of what they've done this season. And a top 6 finish is not out with the realms of possibility. Again, there can't be many games to the split. I'm just trying to look at St Mirren's fixtures actually. I should have had all this sorted before I came on. Let me just check St Mirren's fixtures before the split. So St Mirren have got. So after tomorrow, they play. St Mirren play Dundee United away. Then they've got Livingston at home. Then Hearts at home. They got nothing. Hearts away, sorry. Then they've got Rangers away, and then Kilmarnock at home. Difficult fixtures to come, especially away at Tynecastle and away at Ibrox. They have a chance, but I think the home game is going to be crucial against St Mirren, against Celtic tomorrow, Livingston and Kilmarnock. If they can win those games, they could get top 6. But you know what? No matter what they do, they've had a very, very good season so far. I think Robertson could be very proud of what he's done.
Just before we finish up then, Graham, about the Scottish Affairs Committee at Westminster, the SNP MP, the chairman, Pete Bishop, has said that it's not fair that Scottish football fans are unable to watch the national men's team for free when viewers in England and Wales can watch their national team. He's got a point there, Graham, and I mean, I don't know if Pete watches this show, but I mean, we did say this a few months ago in the show, but it's not really fair.
No, of course it's not. I mean, how many times? I mean, I can't remember when it was. I'm not going to go back and look for it, but I remember months and months and months ago, ITV showed England against San Marino. Who wants to watch that? Seriously, get a grip. Why should Scotland fans have to pay to watch, say for example, Scotland against Spain or Scotland against Cyprus in a few weeks' time? It should be free to air. You've got your dedicated BBC Scotland channel. Why not show it on that? I think it's an absolute joke that Scottish football doesn't get a free to air channel. It's shocking. But yeah, we have to be subjected to watch it. Not that I watch it anyway, but we have to be subjected to watch England games on ITV that I've got no interest in.
Some can make a very interesting point, Graham, the other week. You know the Six Nations are on at the moment. Why is Scotland rugby games on and Scotland football games are not on?
It's a very good point. I mean, I genuinely don't know what the problem is. And again, it's something that I mentioned before as well, is the fact that, and this isn't just Scotland, I've mentioned this before as well numerous times, is the fact that they don't have a dedicated highlights package for the Championship, League One or League Two. And I think that's poor as well. The women's game is in a great place just now. They're getting live coverage. You've got like Hearts against Hibs. I watched that game last week. You had a really big crowd of that game. The women's game is now getting highlighted more, which is brilliant because that's the way it should be. But the Scottish football team doesn't get highlighted, and you've got a dedicated BBC Scotland channel right there that you can show these games on. It's an absolute joke.
So I think that they're talking about that at the Scottish Affairs Committee at Westminster, and I think you might be lucky, Graham, because it's my favourite subject. We might come back to speak about this before the end of the season, or maybe every week in my case. But I wanted to speak about this. Obviously, we've got 5 minutes left, but I'm not going to do any justice on the show. But one of our colleagues, James, mentioned to us today about speaking about pyrotechnics at games. Now, we did see this last week at the final between Celtic and Rangers, and during the game, Celtic was letting off flares. I don't know if you heard, got on the TV for maybe about 20, 25 minutes on the first half. And I was actually thinking about this today when James made a point, and it's quite interesting because what if you're not into flares? What if you're, if you take turns like fits or whatever, would that not put you off going to football games? I mean, what's your point of view, Graham? I mean, in a way, it's good to see it on the telly. It makes a good display, but in other senses, it's not very good.
Well, you're not allowed alcohol into games. You're not allowed to bring bottles into the game, but you can bring pyrotechnics in. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I can understand that kind of brings something to the game, like it brings a bit of colour to the game. But if you look at the game against Hamilton Hearts a few weeks ago on TV, you got that plastic pitch and Hearts fans were chucking pyros on the pitch.
Yeah.
Now I said at the time I wasn't a fan of that. I think it just looks really stupid. I do get that it brings a bit of colour to the game, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I'm not going to say ban them, but I'm just not a massive fan of pyrotechnics. And I thought last week, to be fair, watching it on TV, I thought it was, it did look a great atmosphere, don't get me wrong. But I'm just not a massive fan of bringing pyros to a game. I don't really see the point.
It's not very good gag rate for the game as well, Grim. But in saying that, if you watch football in Italy and Spain, and well, I'm not so sure about Italy, but Spain certainly does that in a few of the games, and also you see it more here in the Champions League games and European nights or cup finals, as you saw last week against Celtic and Rangers at Hampden. But it's, and when you think about it, you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe that actually puts people off going to the games.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't, but I can understand that. I mean, if you've got like families and that there, it maybe might put you off a little bit. But again, I mean, I do understand that it does bring that kind of, the atmosphere last week looked great. I saw a few photos on Twitter and it looked amazing. And having the pyros there did look kind of quite clever, but I'm just not a massive. I mean, I would never ever think about taking pyros to a game. As I said, you can't take alcohol, you can't take bottles into a game, but you can take fireworks and stuff. I just don't see the point. And again, why are you chucking yourself on a pitch? Because I mean, I don't know how many times this season, not just in Scotland but England as well, I've seen like a game, a team scores, a smoke bomb comes out of the pitch, and it takes about 5 minutes to clear it up. What's the point? You're just ruining it. I don't think it's a great look, to be honest.
Especially when it's on, well, no matter when it is, Glenn, but especially when it's on TV, because that's getting shown all around the world.
Yeah, and I think, I can't remember what game it was that I watched last week. I can't remember honestly the game it was, but a smoke bomb came onto the pitch and nobody cleared it up. They just left it there. And the referee was looking at his watch thinking, well, is anyone going to clear this up? There was nothing getting done about it. And it's like, I don't know, another 5 minutes into the game. It's like, seriously, it's pointless. If you're going to bring pyros to the game, don't throw them on the pitch or anything, because it just spoils it for everybody. And again, we've got enough issues off the pitch without having to do that as well.
It's funny how football goes through like wee phases as well, Graham, and obviously with the pyrotechnics, we can't really get rid of it at the moment as well.
No, I know. I mean, I'm sure that the same thing will happen tomorrow at games across the country. There'll be loads of pyrotechnics and stuff, but I just don't know how people are getting these things into the game, because surely you get checked at the games to see if you got something on you. How are they getting these things into the game? I just don't get that.
Yeah, I mean, last week at Hampden, Graham, yeah, you're right. I mean, every time you go to Hampden or Tynecastle or whatever, you actually see the stewards kind of patting you down. But like, as for like pyrotechnics and all that, you're thinking, how the hell are they getting into the skiggums? It's quite hard to believe.
Maybe Stevie Wonder's doing it. I don't know. Maybe Stevie Wonder's patting folk down. I have no idea. But it just seems a bit. I just don't know how you get these things into the game when you kind of get bottles and that into the game. I just find it very bizarre.
Well, I'm gonna leave that patting down conversation there, because we might get into a bit of bother of it. So thanks, Graham. Good to be back with you. And I'm sorry, I'll be back on Sunday as well. We'll be back on Sunday between 3 and 5. With the review, looking back at the St Mirren Celtic game and the rest of the games. Thanks to all everybody watching tonight, and thanks to Dave joined us earlier. And we'll see you on Sunday.